Now I give the floor to the representative of Algeria.
السيد الرئيس.
Mr. President, I'd first like to express our sincere gratitude to Mr. Ramez Al-Akbarov, Deputy Special Coordinator for the Middle East Peace Process, for the briefing that he gave this morning, a briefing that clearly demonstrated the tragic situation in the occupied Palestinian territories, a briefing that portrayed the inability of this Council to guarantee the implementation of its resolution number 2334. It exposes the state of paralysis that befalls the Security Council whenever the matter comes to imposing the implementation of its resolutions on the question of Palestine to a point that risks it losing what remains of its credibility. Mr. President, in Gaza, the Palestinian wound deepens, and with it, pain and suffering deepens. That pain and suffering caused by a brutal occupation that left no method in the playbook of tyrants without imposing them on the Palestinian people until death has become a wish and not a fear. People are being killed as they see their children and their parents and their loved ones killed, and as they see the killing of what was once a sign of life. Death has become the companion of the living. Palestinians are living an endless death, but it is a death without dying. The horrific numbers on the suffering of the people of Gaza fill our reports, and those who deny them or question them are only complicit to this crime. We can say that the occupation has turned Gaza into the worst place a person can live, the worst place where children, women, the elderly, and the young can live, the worst place where journalists, doctors, and humanitarian workers can work. Gaza today, and as a result of the Israeli machine of death and destruction, is the worst place to be born on this earth. And despite this, the people of Gaza remain loyal to their land. They remain attached to their soil. They confront oppression with determination because this is Gaza, a city that is unlike others. It is a land that speaks a language that will never be understood by the occupier. As for this Council, which has been tasked with the maintenance of international peace and security, this Council meets over and over again to discuss the situation in the occupied Palestinian territories without ever being able to take a firm decision, and to come out with a shame that is multiplied, the shame of its inability to put an end to the genocide, the shame of its inability to impose a ceasefire, the shame of its inability to ensure the entry of humanitarian aid, the shame of its inability to enforce respect for international law. So, for how long or when will this Council shoulder its responsibilities and rise to the level of the trust that has been placed upon it? When will this Council respond to the voices of billions that fill the streets calling for an end to the tragedy of Gaza? Mr. President, because the West Bank and Gaza are both in the same Palestinian body, the West Bank is being punished because it reminds people of those who own the rights, those who own the land. They are forced to drink from the same bitter chalice of the occupation as it seeks to achieve its greater scheme, which is to bury the Palestinian national project. The annexation, the rate of annexation in the West Bank has reached unprecedented numbers, and settlement activity is ravaging the West Bank. It is dismembering it and isolating Jerusalem from its natural Palestinian surroundings. The terrorist of the settlers, which enjoys their protection and cover of the occupation forces, has reached dangerous levels. The Holy Al-Aqsa Mosque is being desecrated by the settlers every now and then. And the occupation officials boast every day that there will never be a Palestinian state, as they breathlessly chase the mirage of a greater Israel in a blatant violation of international law and the resolutions adopted by this Council. How much longer? How much longer will the actions of the occupation on the ground be met with statements? How much longer will its violations be ignored? How much longer will international law become empty words when we speak of the Israeli occupier, or have some grown used to this miserable reality? We have a duty. not a work of charity, especially here in this Council, to move, to enable Palestinians to exercise their natural and legal right in their land, to establish their state. We must do this before we have no people left to establish the state of Palestine because of extermination and forced displacement. We must do this before no land remains upon which to establish Palestine because of annexation and settlement. Mr. President, the movement that the question of Palestine has witnessed recently with the recognition of the state and the initiatives calling for a just and lasting peace will always be incomplete as long as they do not move from words to action and as long as they don't move from asking to enforcing and from persuasion to punishment. Algeria looks upon with cautious optimism to the ongoing negotiations, and we hope that they would lead to a positive result that would put an end to the suffering in Gaza, the suffering in Palestine, and would put an end to the aggression. We stress that the international community must guarantee the implementation of any outcome so that we do not repeat the mistakes of the past and so that we do not find ourselves once again before obligations that are not fulfilled and agreements that are violated by the Israeli occupier. Algeria stresses that any agreement, for it to achieve its objectives, must have as its starting point and its objective putting an end to the Israeli occupation of Palestinian territory. The truth is clear. We cannot coexist with occupation. Peoples do not forget their rights, no matter how long. Mr. President, the solution is clear and bears no further delay. The establishment of an independent Palestinian state with Al-Quds al-Sharif as its capital. This is an agreement. This was a solution that was agreed upon by the international community decades ago, and the time has come to implement it. This is the only path to peace in Palestine, and this is the key to stability in the Middle East. I thank you.
I thank the representative of Algeria for the statement.